Hey guys, I just want to talk about some of the more boring stuff on this test, like the regulators and stuff like that, and the customer accounts. We'll see how far we get. I have a student coming in like 10 minutes. I'll see how much I can get out. Shoved down your throats. So first of all, we have the regulators. So we have the SEC, which is the top. That's the government. They're run by the government. They're an actual government agency, the Securities and Exchange Commission. They regulate broker-dealers, exchanges, securities, and investment advisors. If it's not a security, they have no jurisdiction, but they're the federal. Below that is FINRA. That's like their watchdog. They're the ones who basically make you take the Series 7, the SIE, and not all these other licensing exams. They regulate broker-dealers, agents, and the exchanges. That's it. That's all they do. They don't do securities. They don't do investment advisors. They don't do investment advisor representatives. Now, that when you open an account, they have rules. So one of the rules is that when you open an account, you need the name, you need the address, and you need to know that they're 18. They need to be legal age. So if they're under 18, they're not a person. You can't talk to them. As I say to everyone, it's never a good idea to be in a room alone with a 17-year-old. Nothing good comes out of that. Now, after you get those three things, you should make every effort to get their social security number. Remember, these are FINRA rules, not the money laundering or CIP rules. These are FINRA rules. So you don't need a social security number according to FINRA. But there's not a single broker-dealer who doesn't require it. I open an account, I got to show it. That's their choice. That's not FINRA's. Now, if you find out that the individual walking in works for another broker-dealer, they need to get permission from the other broker-dealer. So if you're at Schwab or wherever you are, and a customer comes in who says he works for JP Morgan, you have to get proof of permission. And then what you're going to do is have to send, if they request it, which they all do, duplicate confirms and duplicate statements. So every month or every quarter, you have to send a statement. Now, statements, if there's activity in the account, you have to send it monthly, or if there's penny stocks, you have to send it monthly. If there's no activity, you can send the statements quarterly, but this has to go to them and to their boss, to the JP Morgan, their broker-dealer. You have to send a copy. Confirms are basically what gets sent by settlement. After you do a trade, it says stuff like what you did, how much you did, what the cost was, any kind of extenuating factors, if it's a bond, if it's been called, and you're going to quote it either yield to maturity or yield to call on the price. All that stuff is on there. Basically anything you send to the customer is going to go to JP Morgan also. That's their firm. Another thing you need to find out is that they work for a publicly traded company. That really helps. If they work for a publicly traded company, it would help to know that, so that you know that, well, if Bill Gates walks into your office and says, I want to sell Microsoft, well, then maybe you ask a couple questions. And there might be some rules on that. So one of the rules, going back to the broker-dealer part, is if this person works for a broker-dealer, he's called a restricted person, which means he cannot buy on common stock IPOs. He can buy on additional offerings, secondaries. He can buy on bond IPOs. He can buy on preferred IPOs. He or she cannot buy on common stock IPOs. Okay? Now, that said, can you make recommendations? No, you can't. You don't know anything about him other than his name, address, her name, address, and that they're 18. So you have to do what they call it a suitability statement. You have to get their suitability. You have to get, their risk tolerance. Are they married? Are they single? What is the time horizon? Do they want long? Also suitability, time horizon is everything. If you're thinking 40 years down the road, you're going to invest differently than if they're thinking a week from now or 6 months or just parking their money. So you need to know time horizon, risk tolerance, a lot of other things, but I'm just giving you an idea. Risk tolerance, time horizon, their investment experience, their balance sheet, what they want, what they don't want, what they know, all that stuff. You're trying to find everything about them. That's not the same as KYC. This is just getting suitability. KYC, I'll talk about at another time. Now, let's say they want a margin account, which means they're borrowing money to buy more shares, like leverage. You have the margin agreement. Inside the margin agreement, they have the credit agreement, which has to be signed. That's the terms and interest rates and all that stuff. Then they have the hypothecation agreement. Hypothecation is basically saying, I'm going to buy shares and borrow money to do it. I'm going to use the shares as collateral for the loan that I'm using to buy it. Much like a mortgage. If you buy a house, the mortgage you take out to borrow is backed by the house. So if you don't pay, they sell the house. That's what hypothecation is. It's saying I'm allowing you to use the shares that I buy as collateral. So we have credit agreement and we have hypothecation. The third one is loan consent. Loan consent is the only one of the three that is optional. Loan consent is saying, oh, you can lend my shares out to other people for short sales. You don't have to agree to that. You can, you don't have to, whatever. Okay. Last thing. Well, maybe. Let's see how it goes. Options. Say I want to open an options account. What I'm going to do is first you have to determine that it's suitable. And then I have an acronym called DATO 15. DATO 15. DATO 15. First, the disclosure. The OCC disclosure doc. If you ever see the word disclosure, boom, it's first. Every time. Disclosure is first. Disclosure. A, that's the D. Then A is approval by a principal, usually a series 4 or a 9. 9 can't really do it. The 4 has to do it. Now, the second one is they can start trading. You get approval, they can start trading. After that, after the trade, they have a thing called an options agreement. An options agreement is just letting you know what they can and can't do. They actually have 15 days to sign that after they trade. So it's DATO 15, disclosure, approval, trade, options agreement 15 days later. And if they don't return it, it's not a big deal. They just can't add to their positions anymore. They can only liquidate their positions. Okay. Last thing, if you want to make trades without telling them ahead of time, sounds sketchy, but it's a big part of the business that you trust my business, you trust my whatever, my brain, whatever it is, you want me to trade for you. We need what they call a power of attorney. You have to give me a power of attorney. Could be called third-party authorization, anything you want to call it. Once you put it in, it's good until the customer either revokes it or dies. Once the customer dies, it's done. Has to be in writing and in hand. If I call you up and say, oh, it's in the mail, do some trades for me. No, you can do nothing. If I have an individual account, I can do nothing without either me telling you to do it or in writing a discretionary power of attorney from me in your hand. Has to be in the hand. In the mail means nothing. If I tell you to do something and I'm away, or I don't tell you to do something and I'm away and you want to find out what to do, if you don't have power of attorney, you can't even get information from my wife. Okay? That's the way this goes. So my wife, my husband, whatever it is, if it's my account, that's it. Last thing, joint accounts. There's really 3 types of accounts you have to worry about. There's individual, throwing it out. There's joint with rights of survivorship. That means like me and my wife or me and somebody else, whatever is in the account is both of ours. So if I die, she or he gets it. So joint with rights of survivorship, when the person dies, one of the partners dies, it all goes to the other partner in the account. So it goes across. No probate, which is a court. Joint tenants in common. That means me and like a friend of mine have an account. We both have a percentage. And if I die, which I'm not going to, it drops to my estate or my heirs. It doesn't go across. So again, joint tenants in common goes down. Rights of survivorship goes across to the other partner, avoids probate. Tenants in common does go through probate, which means you have a court sometimes deciding, if you don't have a tight-ass will, it has a court deciding where your money goes, which is not free. Okay, the last one is transfer on death. That's an individual account. So say I have an account, pretend I had a lot of money, and I go, you know what, I want to leave it to my son, but I don't want him to have access yet. So what I'll do is I will create a a transfer on death account. TOD means that I will, if I die, it automatically goes to the person I name. No probate, it's automatic. Sometimes they call it a Totten trust, but a transfer on death or payable on death means when I die, it's an individual account. When I die, it drops right to who I list on the account. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Please subscribe. I doubt you guys made it even close to this far, but if you did, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.